Hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of Cage's Comments. I am Alex Cage, and as I roll back in my chair a little to show you my shirt, it is Tuesday, August 4th. We are in August. It is time to talk football. It is time to talk about training camp. It is also time, if you can see completely, time to talk a little bit about how much I enjoyed watching Spider-Man. I saw it last Thursday when it was released. Brand new day. This shirt is obviously from the animated Spider-Verse. I don't have an MCU Tom Holland Spider-Man shirt, so this is what I got. I am, if you cannot tell by the background, despite the fact that all of these videos have been about sports, a really big superhero movie fan. I grew up big fan of Teen Titans and a lot of the animated shows, Justice League, League Unlimited, Young Justice, even X-Men when I could see it. So I really enjoy, and I will probably be doing call it short movie reviews to begin some of these episodes after I have seen whatever the latest MCU film is. I'm very excited for Doomsday, but just saw Brand New Day, and it was excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that, going to see it with my wife. It is, I told my friends afterwards, in the immediate aftermath of watching it, that it is one of my five favorite MCU films that I could only think of First Avengers, Endgame, and the first Black Panther that I definitively enjoyed watching more coming out of the theater after having a few days to think and react and sit with it. I still love it. I still have it in the top five. It might be those three movies I mentioned, and then the last two Spider-Man films. I think they've been excellent. I was a little worried about the scale of this one, and whether or not we were going to get um, what we were kind of all thinking we'd get after No Way Home, which is a true uh, kind of more down to earth Peter Parker centric story. Uh, and then when the trailers came out and Punisher was in it and Hulk was in it, I was a little worried about how big exactly it was going to get. I thought they handled that beautifully, and no spoilers here, but the Punisher bits of this film I thought were the best, most enjoyable, and I will watch anything that Holland and Bertenthal want to make together forever because I thought they were excellent on screen together. It was awesome. So I had a ton of fun watching Spider-Man last weekend. I think it's awesome. I think you can go see it if you haven't. You can let me know what you think in the comments. But I loved Spider-Man Brand New Day. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. So with that, as the title suggests, let's swing into football. So I am a New England Patriots fan. So that'll, just like most of these basketball videos, I make them, and I always seemingly will always end up talking about the Spurs, no matter what. Despite talking maybe some bigger stories around the league, I will probably almost always do the same. This video today will be honestly just about the Pats. I'm going to talk about my reaction to their offseason moves. Today will be offense. I think next week I'll do defense, and then you can't make content between July and August without making a top 10 list of some sort since we're all bored and the games haven't actually started yet. So I will do that, and I'll probably make a top 10 quarterbacks lists. Maybe I'll do it for next week, but I'll probably do it the week after. And then I like to make 10 bets before the season every single year, futures for season long bets. So I will do that closer to the beginning of the year, late August, beginning of September. But let's start, or as the title suggests, let's swing in to football season here. And we'll start with the biggest move that the Patriots made all offseason. Certainly the biggest move they made on offense, but really the biggest move they made all offseason, which was the long awaited, I guess, the inevitable having to wait until June 1st for cap purposes, but was reported a month in advance that they were the favorites, and really probably thought to be the favorites as soon as AJ Brown was having more issues there in Philadelphia. But Patriots traded for AJ Brown a 2028 first round pick and a fifth round pick in the upcoming draft. So I will talk about the cost first. It does feel like, to me, this is a little bit of an overpay. However, uh, given that seemingly my entire life, the conventional wisdom has been that NFL teams view, most NFL teams, not all, most NFL teams view, draft picks a year out as worth around less, then this equates to a second round pick. I don't care about any draft picks after the fourth round. Your odds of hitting on a player there, while it can happen, are not great. Excuse me. So that's not obviously a big part of this, but it would have, it feels like, since this was seemingly so inevitable that it just wasn't a tenable situation in the locker room between Brown and Hurts and Brown and Sirianni, that he was going to have to leave and that he was going to want to go play for Vrabel. And if that's the case, feels like you maybe should have been able to get out of that without having to give up first. I personally think a first round pick is a first round pick, pretty much regardless of how far out you give it. Which, on a side note here, that's got to be such a job security at the GM spot. It's got to be such a huge advantage, right? Like, Howie Roseman knows I'm going to be here in the 2028 draft, whereas other GMs may not feel like they can wait that long, because if they have a bad year, they get fired. That might be part of why the league views it the way it does. So I think the first round pick is a bit of an overpay, but it is 2 years out, so you won't actually have to reconcile that quite yet. Um, Although, if I'm being honest, given the reason I still view first round picks as first round picks regardless is partially because when you're in a situation like the Patriots, in 2 years, right, Drake May is going to be more expensive. And so, ostensibly that 2028 pick is going to be a little more valuable because you're going to need some cheap high end talent, and the first round is normally where you get that. So I feel like a bit of an overpay, but I don't think it's crazy. Again, I would have given a second. I think would have been fine, and this is where most teams view a second at, like equivalent to a second. So I think that's fine there. That being said, I am excited for AJ Brown to be a Patriot. He is, even coming off a down year, the best receiver that the Patriots have had since Randy Moss. I don't think that's hyperbole. Like, that they have not been good at that spot in a very long time. So combined with Romeo Dobbs, where your best and second best receivers last year were Diggs and Booty, and this year it's going to be Diggs, Dobbs, and now Booty is your third best receiver. That's a real upgrade at the receiver position at the weapons spot, and I think that's massive. So, just to kind of level set here, Brown had a down year last year, right? Take a look at what he produced in an offense with Jalen Hurts not seemingly being able to get on the same page with his quarterback. He gave you 1,000 yards on 78 catches, 7 touchdowns. 40 of those catches went for first downs. Side note, because I'm sure most people are like, Alex, who the hell talks about first downs? I think first downs might be the most underrated stat. everyone know like the best thing that can happen on the play is a touchdown. The next best thing is a first down, and it's a real good indicator of maybe like not empty calories from a yardage situation, right? Um, but anyway, point being, those are his numbers: 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 78 uh, catches, and he did that with a receiving grade from PFF of 83. Stephon Diggs, the best Patriot receiver: 1,013 yards, 4 touchdowns, 47 first downs, 85 catches. So 85, 4, and 10, 13 with a receiving grade of 82. So in a down year for Brown, he was just good, comparable to a pretty good year. The best, I should say, not a pretty good year for Diggs. He's had much better years, but the best receiver that the Patriots had last season was basically about as good as Brown was during a down year with a quarterback who did not play as well as Drake May did, right? An offense that was built on, we still kind of want to be a run first team in Philly versus the Patriots offense, who I'm sure McDaniels would love to run the ball more successfully, but they stunk at it. The Patriots offense was good last year because Drake May was awesome. I think there is um, real upside to that with Brown, despite the concerns, even if he's not one of the five best receivers like I thought he certainly was just 2 or 3 years ago. So really happy with that. Again, like I said, a bit of an overpay, but I think really happy with that. And you gotta believe from a personality standpoint with Brown that everybody gets a little bit of a honeymoon phase, right? Even if at some point this is going to blow up, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to blow up this year or next year. Two, second to that point in terms of Brown's personality, Brown was reading the self help book on the sidelines the year they won the Super Bowl. He has made comments like this while still being really productive in Philadelphia, right? Like it's not necessarily that like his temper flares and then sorry, my wife just got back, so I had to pause for a second. But anyway, what was I saying? Where was I before? Brown and his personality, and even if he's uh, having some flare ups or things like that, doesn't necessarily prevent him from being productive on the on the field. It reminds me a little bit actually of like Kevin Durant and all of his stuff with on Twitter, which I personally think is ridiculous, right? But it's never actually prevented him from being really good. There are some guys who they start throwing tantrums, for lack of a better term, or getting into some of this off the field stuff, and their play on the field takes a hit. I don't know that that's necessarily true with Brown. I don't think last year was so much about a drop in his performance or play so much as it was miscommunications with him and Hurts, which again that could be some of the personality stuff. But he has played really well despite that, as at times too. So, but third point with that is you're betting on the Vrabel relationship with with Brown from their Tennessee days, right? Um, and so I think the Patriots will be fine. It's not a huge cap hit. I think they're going to be. I think that's a really good move, and I think it will help their offense a lot, sustain what will obviously be a much tougher schedule. Pair that with Romeo Dobbs, as I mentioned earlier. Again, the whole Dobbs thing with me is he can play inside, he can play outside, so he can reproduce. I think a lot of what Diggs gave them in the slot because Brown is almost exclusively uh, an outside receiver. I think he took like 80% plus of his snaps last year outside the numbers. You did have that pulled up just a second ago. Let me see as I pull it back up. This is beautiful content, I know. AJ Brown was out wide. 87.6% of his snaps were out wide, right? Compare that to Stephon Diggs, who was 53% in the slot, 47% on the outside. So, and again, those numbers are from PFF. So I think Dobbs um, is going to be able to replace more of what Diggs did in the slot. And really and truly, the real benefit there is, again, the Patriots have taken their wide receiver group and they've gone from Diggs, Booty, Holland, Mac Hollins, right, Kyle Williams, Demario Douglas as your top guys, and they've knocked basically everybody down 2 pegs, right? You still have Kayshon Booty, you still have Mac Hollins, you flip Diggs for Brown, you insert Dobbs, and now Booty and Hollins and Pop Douglas, right? They're all 3, 4, 5 on your depth chart instead of 2, 3, 4. Excuse me, which is, I think, a real upgrade, and something to be excited about as the Patriots go forward into this year. They also signed Elijah Vera Tucker, 3 years, $42 million, and then they drafted Lomu in the first round on the offensive line. So you hope that Will Campbell plays a lot more like he did before he got hurt, as opposed to after he came back from injury, right? And just for the sake here of narrowing that down, I can pull it back up. Right, his his PFF grades last year, he ended up 72 grade overall, which was 32nd for tackles. He had a really good season. I think he was basically about a league average tackle last year, but he was obviously really, really bad in the postseason. I mean, it was god awful. I don't think you throw out what was ultimately a very good rookie regular season at tackle, because he had a bad month of football after he had come back from injury in the postseason. But you draft Lomu, and if he does start off the year or struggle at tackle, if he hasn't made a jump, you have a first round pick that you can put at that spot and feel good about it. You also, right now, have, I think, 6 offensive linemen that you feel good about just in general, right? You kick in Wilson to center from guard, who also was really bad in the postseason last year, but back at his spot at center. You keep Moses and Owe, probably butchering that name, on the right side of the offensive line. Elijah Vera Tucker goes in at left guard. He has been a very good guard in his career. He also, in seemingly half of his seasons, with a season-ending injury, right, and misses the whole season or half the season. So he's very injury prone. And then you got Campbell, right, and then Lomu. So you are, which is about as good as you can expect to be on an offensive line in the NFL, where you feel good about, 6 guys. Campbell makes a jump. If Elijah Vera Tucker gets hurt again, or Campbell doesn't make the jump that you hope he makes, then you can kick Lomu in there and you can move Campbell into guard, and you still feel good about the line overall. So I think there's real upside there. So I really like what the what the Patriots did on offense, and then obviously you've got Drake May, and you're hoping that in year two he looks, or in year three rather, he looks a lot more like he did in the regular season than the postseason with a better supporting cast, which I do believe he has. That is the one thing that I don't think he got quite enough credit for is how bad the weapons last year were. I think they had a bottom half of the league and really and truly probably a bottom quarter of the league uh, supporting cast. Adding Brown, Dobbs, Elijah Vera Tucker, and a first round tackle, I think upgrades that significantly. And I think you can expect that he'll still play at a really high level. Whether or not he'll actually be, the league MVP or second league MVP remains to be seen. But I think he can show that he can still play at a really really high level. So I'm very excited for the Patriots moving forward. Um, they didn't make any major moves at running back. I don't think they really needed to. I think upgrading the offensive line should help the run game more than trying to go out and improve the running backs themselves. Hopefully, Henderson learns and gets better in the pass protecting aspect of his job. Uh, because if I have to watch another season of Stevenson beat Butterfingers potentially because Henderson hasn't learned how to throw his body in front of a linebacker, it's that ain't gonna be great. But overall, I really like what the Patriots did on offense. Defense, I'll talk about next week. Probably not quite as much that I like it. But thanks for listening. Like, rate, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.